Well, I have to say, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be at the Museum of Ice Cream, brought to you by a company from Fortune Cookies, with a podcast that has the word fuck in it, talking to amazing people. So I am happy to be here, and I have to give thanks to Open Fortune, our sponsor. Open Fortune flipped the fortune cookie on its head and made one of the most creative ad canvases by partnering with 47,000 restaurants, all the distributors and producers of the fortune cookie, being able to write the fortune on one side, but also put brands on the back like Duolingo, Chime, Zelle, ZipRecruiter. So pinch myself every day with working with the fortune cookie company, but we're here today at the Museum of Ice Cream, so life is good, and I appreciate Open Fortune being part of this. So without further ado, I definitely still have energy because it is the first of 14, 15 maybe podcasts that I'm going to be running with. So without further ado, hey everybody, and welcome back to How the Fuck Did You Get That Job, where we uncover impressive career trajectories of standout professionals and where I, your ever curious host, dig deep to reveal the hows and whys. Today we are joined by the marketing maestro, Abigail Eddy. Abigail's academic roots were planted at the University of Illinois Springfield, where she graduated with a BA in communication, and she later expanded her knowledge with a Master's of Science in Communications from Purdue University. Her professional journey began as a marketing associate at Bloomington Cultural District, where she dedicated 2 years to owning her skills. But that was just the beginning. For over a decade, Abby led the marketing efforts at Purdue Convocation, steering it to new heights. She then spent time at Purdue University as a term lecturer at the School of Communications, followed by 3 years as the Director of Digital Engagement. Now, she's leveraging her vast experiences at Purdue, having climbed the ranks to become the Director of Brand Management for Purdue Global. So, Abby, how the fuck did you get that job?
Clearly, it was a long journey.
Well, we're here.
It's true. I've always loved brand, actually, so starting even when I was younger, probably actually way back to when I was a Girl Scout, I came up with a marketing plan to be the top cookie seller in my county, and so I feel like I started young.
So Girl Scout cookies first. What's your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Oh gosh.
Hard question.
I feel like it depends on the time of year. Like there's certain times of year you wish you could have a Girl Scout cookie, but then they're not in season. Mm-hmm. So I'd probably say Thin Mint.
Okay,
I do like the frozen ones.
Yeah. That's well done. That's well done. So with the Girl Scouts, right? Everybody knows the cookies. What did that teach you about marketing, brand, right? Mm-hmm. And how'd that whole experience play out?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me with that was actually how to work with people and how to actually set a sales pitch. Because I had my little sales pitch when I would go to every house. But I'm
not going to make you do that right now, but...
You what?
I'm not going to make you do the full sales pitch.
No, thank you. I wouldn't remember it anyway. But my mom actually is a small business owner, and so I always saw how she actually treated her business and how she was an entrepreneur. My dad had a small business, and I helped him, I think I was maybe in 4th grade, and I helped him create a design and logo for his business as well. So I've always really enjoyed that. But then there's been this other side that I have an interest in. So I also play the cello, and so my mom is a music teacher.
Do you still play?
I do still play.
Nice.
I actually play in a cover band.
Very cool.
You can see us in the greater Indiana area.
I still play the trumpet.
Oh, nice.
So,
nice. Yeah. Do you play in
a
cover band also?
So I'm currently working into getting into a band now,
nice.
But more jam stuff, more jam band, more than like go practice and stuff.
Sure. That's actually fun because it's kind of like a dare. Like you're just like, okay, we're in the key of D, go.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like,
I do like that too.
Yeah.
So I had this whole music side too that I was interested in, and for a while I thought I might major in music, but I still had that love of marketing and brand and communication. And so when I was in college, I actually had the opportunity at University of Illinois at Springfield. It was the first time that they had a music program. And so I latched onto that one professor immediately. And she saw where I had all of these different interests, and she said, do you want to make your own internship? So I actually got to do an internship where I had a series of recitals, but I had to do all of the marketing and communications for each of them to make sure that I had people to attend them. And so that's when I knew that, okay, I still want to do music, but I also love doing the marketing side as well. So my first job out of college was actually for an orchestra. I had been the orchestra librarian, and for people who are
So wait, what does an orchestra librarian do?
Because it's very, you have to be very organized. So if you go to an orchestra concert and you see all of the string players with their bows moving in the same direction, there's someone that sits there and puts markings in the music to make sure that all of the string players play together. That was my role.
Meaning not from a rhythmic side,
no,
more
just
from like
a physical standpoint. So
to make it look
a down bow and an up bow, so that way there's not like mass chaos of bows going in different directions. So it was great for a college student to be able to do that because I could do it on my own time, and it was a regional orchestra, so I got to travel with them too when I did that. And so I was working there, and I had planned on going to grad school after graduating, but then the marketing director at the orchestra had left, and the executive director said, oh, you should just apply for the job. So then that was my first job out of college. Cool. I was marketing manager for the Illinois Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, and it's cool that your first job, I feel like most people aren't able to combine interests like that right out of the bat, so kudos to you. I'm curious too, before we get into, you getting that promotion and your first job out of college, what were brands early on that stood out to you that made you feel like the power of brand?
Well, so I do have a hilarious story of my mom talking about some of the first things that I said as a small child were actually brand names. Like we would be out and about.
Capitalism, baby.
And I'd be like, Sears, JCPenney, or whatever, or McDonald's. But I remember thinking that, as I got older, Target has definitely been a brand that I love to follow, and I love to see with their Cartwheel app and everything how they're able to target their customers so well. So I think when I was younger, though, I definitely was drawn to really interesting commercials, like that creative aspect to commercials as well. But I do specifically my mom remembering, she's like, it's not surprising that you went into marketing because of how much you talked about them when you were younger. So I always thought that was funny that she recalled that about me from when I was a young child.
Similar to me, I was just my first words were baby boom, which was the movie. So same but different. So talk to me about you get that first job out of college, you're kind of thrown into the fire, I'm guessing. What did you learn from that experience? And what, people say obviously is very cliche, but you learn what you don't like. What were some things you learned that you liked and disliked as well?
I think that position was a great first step for me in the professional world because it had so many, since it was a nonprofit, obviously it wasn't a marketing department. It was on me to make sure that I was getting the marketing done. So I definitely leaned on the executive director that was there, but then also just my area of interest, thinking about what do I want as a music goer and kind of thinking about it from the customer perspective. So I feel like that was one thing that I really helped leave my mark, even though I was only there for a short time, thinking about things from the customer perspective and user experience perspective as well. But the challenge was that position was both marketing and fundraising. So it was a lot wrapped up into one.
Especially for somebody right out of college.
And so did I do both of them well? Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. But I feel like anyone in that role would be pulled in those different directions. And so it was definitely a great learning experience for me as well. So I worked there for 3 years, and then my next job was actually in Bloomington, Illinois at a brand new performing arts center. So I think one thing that
Was it Purdue Convections?
It was not, actually. There was one more stop before that. It was actually the Bloomington Cultural District, and it was a brand new renovated space. And it was really exciting to be a part of that because I get to work alongside a marketing director and see really how do you put that whole plan together? Like how do you launch something to a community that's going to benefit really everyone who lives within probably a 60-mile radius.
Totally.
And so that was really fun to be a part of that. I was there for 2 years. I did have a kind of a hefty commute to there, so that was one of the reasons why I started looking for other opportunities. And I had a really supportive boss at the time who had heard of the job that was open at Purdue with their performing arts presenter. And he said, you know, I never saw you being here for more than 2 years. And that really stuck with me because I think as a supervisor, you want people to stay forever and ever. But it's also understanding like within certain roles,
sure,
the growth is grow,
limited, right?
And if the leadership is there and helping to push the person, then they won't stay in that role. So I always really took that to heart and thinking about what a great supervisor he was to want me to go and go for this job.
I think that's a super key learning as well because a lot of friends of mine, you know, oh, I was only there for 2 years, I wanted, and one of my good friends was at a big company, it was a 2-year role, they didn't have a spot for him, he had to leave to come back, but stuff like that where it's like there is a shelf life on some roles and you're not just going to climb from the janitor to the CEO. It's going to be nonlinear, which is what the show's about. So, so Purdue Connections. Is it Purdue related?
It is. So it's the reason why
for somebody who doesn't know Purdue Connections.
So I think some people like they'll see the name on paper and think like, is that something to do with commencement? Because a convocation like is a very regal like 1910, 1920s, and that's because that's when it was founded. It was actually founded in 1902, and so it is the performing arts presenter at Purdue, so they bring all the Broadway shows, concerts. When we were walking through the ice cream museum, one of the ice cream flavors was Lady Gaga fingers, and that reminded me of, I made Lady Gaga fingers for cookies after we presented Lady Gaga one time. So it was really great because we had such a wide range of artists, anyone from Yo-Yo Ma to jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. And so what it really taught me though is thinking about how do you really target an audience, because not everything is for everyone, especially in the performing arts too. And how do you make sure an audience member is prepared for a show? Like I never wanted to advertise something and give like a false sense of what that performance would be. And so I felt like our team did a really great job of that to make sure that we were finding those specific audiences that would enjoy those very curated experiences that they could attend. So while I was there though, I got the opportunity to do, we did a website relaunch and we actually did a brand relaunch during that time. Part of the challenge, again, to having a name like that is that I think at some point in the 90s, a group of people started calling it Purdue Convos. And then another marketing director came along and I think was like, why are people calling it that? That's not our name. So then people would almost apologize for calling it that. So I'm like,
that's a weird dynamic.
I know. And
also
so
because like there's a quote, it's like the brand isn't what you say it is, it's what they say it is. So if they say you're Convos, you're Convos.
Yeah, and so we actually did a full rebrand centered on that. So where it really got back to, it's okay to call us that or this. Like at the heart, we just want you here. Like you have a place here.
Sure.
So that was a really great discovery for us to understand that people felt that way, and we wanted to give them permission to call them that if they wanted to.
And what did you learn from your time there? Like biggest lesson you were there for?
So I was there for 12 years. And the reason why I stayed so long, I did have a lot of growth opportunities while I was in the role, and my supervisor was always very open to me trying new things. I think what I've brought to a lot of my roles is I'm not afraid to learn new things in the digital realm. So I think like if someone was afraid to try something new or try a new platform or give something a shot, like I've always had the mind like I want to do that and I want to see if it's a right fit for the organization. And so I was at Convocation so long that I literally launched all of their social media accounts because they hadn't had any yet because of the time frame that I was there. And then I got to do the brand relaunch. I had a lot of leadership opportunities while I was there. So I think for me, my takeaway really was that I never want to be comfortable with that. Like, as soon as you get comfortable in something, it's already outdated. So it's always kind of looking ahead. Like, you want to make sure what you're doing is working, but also looking ahead to make sure that you've got your eye on what's that next trend that you perhaps could incorporate into your marketing plan.
Totally. And so what I'm curious too, you talk about that, the next big thing to like, or what's a marketing plan throughout or idea that you really needed to convince stakeholders and then ended up like, you know, maybe they were like, I don't know, Abby, and then it ended up blowing their minds.
In terms of that role,
any role.
I think probably some things with technology at my previous position where I think one thing was making a ticket buying experience easier, because there's nothing worse than like trying to go and buy a ticket and that whole process. And so I think we had a lot of learnings that were surprising, but because I was able to show the data and say like, well, according to this, we know that it's going to be a huge success with our ticket holders. I think actually one thing that we did, and Ticketmaster is already doing this too, but this was a long time ago. We wanted to be really transparent with pricing in terms of like when you buy a ticket.
I hate Ticketmaster.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I know you can't get on them, but nobody from Ticketmaster is welcome on this podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
But we wanted to really be transparent with the cost, because I didn't want someone to see a price for a family in particular and then be like, oh my gosh, it's $50 more. So we actually always advertised the price you would pay, so you saw the ticket price, and then when you went to purchase it, like we incorporated.
And that means you were before your time, because still companies like Airbnb learning stuff like that as well. So take me to present day. And Purdue, and you know what made Purdue University and Purdue Global the right place for you, and what are you just absolutely stoked about what you're working on now?
So after my first role within the Purdue Marketing and Communications office was actually Director of Digital Engagement. So previously I oversaw all the social media for Purdue, as well as the Purdue podcast, This is Purdue. Sorry, I had to plug it. Didn't mean it.
You should plug it. You should. No shame.
And then also some paid media components as well. What I really liked about that is, I think in my problem-solving nature, I got my job, and then within 3 months, the pandemic hit. So what I thought my job was very different. And so we suddenly were in this position where we could really help the university communicate during a time of huge uncertainty. And so our team really rallied. We came up with new lines of communication, new content ideas. We amped up our presence on YouTube, and we were trying to really help people that we knew were at home. Like, how could we connect with them to help them realize we're still going to be here when you come back on campus, and also help students still feel connected, because they were having this online student experience, and that's not what they signed up for. Like, they wanted to be on campus. So I think our team really rallied. I was so proud of our social team for being able to do that, and be able to have all of that content coming out during that time. So I was in that role for about 3 years, and then last year the opportunity came available for me to switch over to brand again. So it's kind of like that full circle moment of me of like coming back to being brand.
And the difference between like social engagement or digital engagement and brand, they go hand in hand, right? But what's the main differential for you?
I think with what I'm doing now with brand, I'm really able to look at everything holistically, and I work alongside the social media team to make sure that they have what they need to be successful, but I can have a larger view where I feel like when you're doing social media, there are just so many elements to it. Like,
and you're in the dirt, right?
Yeah,
like day to day.
You're in it. You're finding insights, like understanding. And so I am lucky that I have such an incredible team that is giving me those insights, so that I can help launch projects that help produce content for them based on those insights. So I think my background is very helpful for that. But I definitely I like both, but
Yeah.
it's nice to have the perspective in
Totally.
both areas.
And as a leader, right, most of our listeners are between 18 and 26, looking for jobs, looking for accolades that they can add to their resume. What do you look for in potential hires, when filling a role?
I think that I love working with students. I've taught a few classes at Purdue before for advertising, and several of my students have actually gone on to be interns in our department. We've actually hired a few of them too, just because they have such great experience. I know that when I am hiring an entry-level position, I don't expect someone to have like the area where it's like 1 to 2 years of experience. I'm like, that's not entry level. That's like you literally, like, yes, that means you want someone with 1 to 2 years experience. So what I'm looking for is someone who has taken the time to learn programs. So in my classes that I teach, I want students to get free subscriptions to Emma. I want free subscriptions to MailChimp, like learn email marketing, learn free subscriptions to email platforms or social media platforms to help schedule. If they've done that and they have that on their resume alongside with internship experience, I'm definitely going to take notice because they've taken the time to actually go that extra step. But when I'm hiring a position, if it's entry level, that's not how I'm writing the job description, because I feel like that's not real.
No, that's realistic, right?
Yeah.
How has AI played a role in your job? It's changing everything. It's changing my job.
I think that I attended a conference a few months ago, and one of the speakers was Ocean Spray. And I'm totally fascinated with, they have a newer commercial that's out where it's the jiggling cranberry sauce. I don't know if you've seen that before. I highly recommend checking it out. The inspiration for it started with AI. Like, they actually wrote part of the brief in AI, but the magic of it was when the creative team came together, was looking at how AI had framed some things, and then that's how they came up with the idea for it. I don't want to spoil it because it's so delightful. Please check it out. I think they have a new version of it that just came out for this year's holidays. But I think that for creative teams I've
never heard that before. I'm not going to spoil this advertisement for you.
Yeah, I don't want to. Like, that's like the geek out in me. There's like a Beetlejuice vibe to it at one point.
Love Beetlejuice.
I've said too much.
Good. I'm going to check it out after this.
So I think that AI, though, can really help marketers as they're writing strategic and creative briefs. That's really how our team does that. Just to make sure that we can save a little bit of time. It's not going to change that creative output that we have or the quality of it, but I think it helps just get us going a little faster. Maybe, or if someone, it's always terrible when you're sitting there in front of like a blank screen on your computer and you're like, I just have to get started. I think going that route helps get over that hump to just get the project started.
Absolutely. So what are you most stoked about with what you're working on today at Purdue Global and brand and, changing the way online universities, work?
Sure. I think my favorite part of my job is actually, again, working with students, because in all of our advertisings that we have, it's actually real Purdue Global students. So we're always looking for more stories about students. We have about a year ago now, we launched a new brand, and it's called This Is My Comeback. And it's really looking at how students are able, even if they have a little bit of college, like getting that, being able to come back and get their degree, even if they're not sure that they can, just kind of helping encourage them. And I have met some really incredible students that I feel like, what am I doing with my life? I'm not doing anything. They're just really driven and wanting to make a difference, which I think is really inspiring.
I think you do a great job with storytelling online, and I've checked them out, and it's all about stories at the end of the day. So that's really cool. I want to enter our lightning round. Before we enter the quick question round, got to give a big shout out to Open Fortune. Open Fortune is changing the way advertising is done. No more billboards, but putting the best mini billboard inside a fortune cookie, reaching millions and millions of people every day where they feast. So shout out Open Fortune for making today possible. So before we get started, let's crack open a cookie and see what we got. So my job, sometimes I Google, right, like fortune cookie, right? Because I'm like, wow, let's see what the press hits. And there was an article from a girl at, just speaking of stories, at Idaho State who got our cookie, and she was a D1 volleyball player, and the cookie said, you don't have to go far to make a big impact. And so she decided to stay and go to Idaho State instead of going to Virginia to play volleyball, and it picked up on news. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Wow.
So what did you get?
Oh, beware of owls.
Oh, and what's the brand on the back?
And the brand is, Duolingo.
Yeah, Duolingo. I got a Duolingo too. Mine says you will be visited by a mysterious creature.
Oh.
Duolingo. But I've heard the Museum of Ice Cream actually gets haunted at night, so these guys come to life. Anyway.
Love it.
So, just rapid fire.
Okay.
First thing that comes to mind, all right?
Okay.
Person you most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
Oh, Tina Fey.
Good one. Favorite city in the world?
New York.
I love New York. I live in New York. Biased, but is it okay to sleep with socks on?
Yes.
I wish Carla was here. Carla? No. She said it's okay to sleep with socks on, so you're in my camp. Favorite rom-com?
Oh, no. Oh, Just Friends.
Just Friends. And also, it's okay to sleep with socks on. Okay. Do you? Maybe, but it's okay for all the listeners out there.
I think you got to keep it open.
Yeah, keep it open, right? It's like warm, express yourself in different ways, right?
Some of us disagree.
Yeah. In 40 years, what will people be nostalgic for?
Landlines.
Yeah. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Oh, gosh. Oh, there's a job that's not on my resume. Someone told me and took it. I worked there for a week, and it was a terrible idea.
There you go. In one sentence, how do you sum up the internet?
Chaotic.
One word, even better. One thing people don't understand about working in college marketing is blank.
You can't make everyone happy.
Who's somebody you think should hop on this podcast?
Ooh, this is not rapid fire. I feel like some of the people we've already had. I would actually say Katie Pratt. She's my supervisor. She's really good.
There you go. Would love to have her on. Mm-hmm. And in 10 years, where can we catch you?
Most likely at Purdue University. We'll definitely play my cello.
There you go, playing the cello.
At Purdue.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Abby. It's wonderful to have you.
Thanks.